For the International Joint Commission and its International Lake Ontario-St. Lawrence River Board, who oversee the flow of water out of the lake and through the St. Lawrence River, the job is a complex balancing act. The Commission's oversight is subject to the 1909 Boundary Waters Treaty between the U.S. and Canada, and any regulation plan implemented by the Commission to manage the outflow of Lake Ontario must adhere to the articles set out in the treaty. The Board makes regulation decisions that consider all interests, including adequate flows to keep the power dams operational and commercial vessels moving safely along the seaway, and ensuring that water intakes do not become high and dry, and that ice jams in winter months can be kept to a minimum when possible. In order to take appropriate action to provide relief to upstream and downstream interests, the Board has the authority to deviate from the regulation under specific circumstances. The IJC looks to manage flows to reduce the risk and impacts of flooding and very low water levels, both on Lake Ontario as well as downstream along the St. Lawrence River to Lake St. Pierre. Please view the Board's video on Deviation Authority for more information regarding deviations from Plan 2014. This balancing responsibility is challenging. The Great Lakes region encompasses 295,000 square miles, or 755,200 square kilometers. Much of the precipitation that falls across the region flows through the Upper Lakes to Lake Erie, and then through the uncontrolled Niagara River into Lake Ontario. The responsibilities for balancing high water levels upstream and downstream within the system are complicated by the sheer force of Mother Nature's influence on water levels. This influence cannot be completely controlled by regulation of outflows from Lake Ontario. Generally speaking, regulation can be effective in the short term in removing some extra water from Lake Ontario, but the physical dimensions of the St. Lawrence River's channel limit the capacity of passing the immense volume of water that can fall quite suddenly over the region during extremely wet weather cycles. In addition to the contributions of precipitation and inflows from the Upper Lakes, multiple smaller tributaries, which are part of Lake Ontario's drainage basin, also flow into the lake. All that water must ultimately evaporate or travel down the St. Lawrence River, which also has multiple large tributaries flowing into it as it flows to the Atlantic Ocean. The enormous contribution of water that can occur during very wet periods makes it difficult to keep all aspects of the system in balance. Plan 2014 is a regulation plan developed through years of intense scientific study and consultation with jurisdictions and stakeholders. The Board is responsible for ensuring the outflows from Lake Ontario are in line with the rules of the regulation plan. The plan was designed to provide net economic benefits to Canada and the U.S., preserve benefits to shoreline property owners, while also including measures to improve ecosystem health and diversity on Lake Ontario and the Upper St. Lawrence River. While the Board is authorized to deviate from the regulation plan during extremely wet or extremely dry conditions, the regulation plan itself was designed to help protect shoreline property and other interests during periods of very high and low water. Plan 2014, which accounts for years of data accumulated from regulations put in place since the 1950s, provides for more natural fluctuations of water levels. It aims to foster the conditions needed to restore Lake Ontario and Upper St. Lawrence River coastal wetlands, as well as improve habitat for fish and wildlife. It also better maintains system-wide levels for navigation and allows for a modest increase in hydropower production compared to the previous regulation plan. Plan 2014, as a starting point, sets initial releases based on a predetermined set of criteria that mainly considers the level of Lake Ontario and incoming water from Lake Erie. But there are other considerations and limitations due to physical and operational constraints and the potential impacts to other interests, which often influence the final prescribed flows, which are then also taken into consideration.